everything was just, they were just plowing through everything and everything was great. Well, it can't be. I mean, unfortunately, right now, this is not under control. We're continuing to live through it. In New York, we're better than we've ever been, but the rest of the country, it's the exact opposite. And now football is in jeopardy as well. I mean, and to think that the football season's just going to start on time, it seems impossible, doesn't it? I mean, even feel the same way about the NBA and Major League Baseball. Like, I don't know if those things are still going to happen, even though there's been agreements in place and there's been schedules and there's been everything else. I mean, I have no idea because every day things change. So yeah, I mean, football's in jeopardy, and it's the one that I guess makes me the most upset, quite frankly, because it's my favorite sport, and I always thought that by the time that we reached here and talking about training camps and preseason games and the NFL season, that we would be in a much better place. And unfortunately, we're not. And it just flat out is very, very discouraging that these conversations are starting to happen, but it's the reality.
Well, the NFLPA wants less players, oddly enough, for training camps. They want a maximum of 80 players. You could bring less than that if you'd like, if you're a team. That's just the maximum amount of players that you can have, as opposed to 90 players, which is the maximum coming into this year. The other thing that happened, the NFL canceled their supplemental draft. And the reason why that's important is because if there is no college football, the NFL didn't want to get embroiled in a college supplemental draft right now, because there are some very attractive players who may not end up playing football that will be eligible for the draft next spring. How do you decide who to draft and when to draft? And if you are a college football player and they decide to move the college season to the spring, are you playing in that spring season if you are a player who is eligible for next year's 2021 draft?
Yeah, it's crazy scenario to think about, and probably not if I were that guy. If you're asking me that question hypothetically, I probably would not. Because there's just what are you to gain out of that if you're one of the top players in the draft? Now, there's going to be some people that want to think that maybe I'm a fourth-round pick right now, and if I play, then I can end up being somewhere else. But I mean, I would absolutely, if I were a Trevor Lawrence or someone who is the top of that, I would try to get into the pros as quickly as humanly possible.
Could you imagine Trevor Lawrence playing in the spring a full 13 games, going through the process of college football playoffs and all of that other crap? I don't know if the NFL will move its draft. They could still be playing during the draft. Think about that. So now you're potentially drafting a player, I guess, that could end up getting injured that you probably wouldn't have drafted if you weren't playing in the spring. And then he makes it to the college football playoffs in the spring and then gets hurt in the college championship game, or like the way that Tua got hurt late in the season.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how any of that stuff is going to play itself out, but I do know that Trevor Lawrence, most likely, depending on who has the first overall pick next year, is going to be that pick. And if they're going to move the college football season to the spring, and I'm sure he loves Clemson. I'm sure he loves Dabo Swinney. I'm sure he loves everything about going to school there and playing football there. I wonder what he would do. That he would be the one guy that you'd all wonder what he would do. But, there are running backs and linebackers who are going to end up having all these collisions during all these games in the spring and then go turn around and put on a professional football uniform for next fall. So they're going to end up playing all those games in 1 year?
Yeah, doesn't seem likely. It really doesn't. But I mean, that's just one of a million ways that this could play out, right?
And there's one other thing.
Lost in it.
Right. So the NFLPA is complaining or trying to control, the narrative as to, how many players, how they're going to practice, when are they going to be able to play, are they going to have any preseason games and all that other stuff. Who is advocating and fighting for the college football player?
Nobody. There's
nobody protecting them.
No, because there's no union. I mean, basically, it's their coach, right? I mean, that's it. Or their captain on their team would be the people that you would point to protect the players, because that's the way it is in college. I mean, and, there's a lot of – once you get to pro sports, it's a totally different deal, as you have explained many, many times. I mean, you are unionized. You think about your families and all these things. When you're a college football player, I mean, you're You're very young. There's some that are more mature than others, and there's nobody protecting them or looking out for them. I mean, it's always been like that, but now there's a spotlight on it because of the world that we're living in. I mean, I don't know who's stepping up. If someone is silently they're trying to protect them, we don't know about it, but that's a dangerous road to go down when players need to be, what they need is someone to be like the union leader for them without really having a union, and I don't know who that's going to be or where that person's going to come from.